I'm Frank Vascellaro with CBSN Minnesota. Joining us on a historic day in Minnesota in our studio is Governor Tim Walz. Governor, thanks for being here.
Good to be with you, Frank.
Esme said she had a source connected to the prosecution that were very concerned and they were worried about the case. Were you worried about their ability to get this verdict?
Well, I have full trust in Attorney General Ellison and his team. This was the best prosecution team probably in the country you could put together, but I'm concerned because I think we all know it just hasn't ever been done in Minnesota where a white police officer was convicted of killing a black man. So I did have my concerns, and I knew that most Minnesotans were really nervous. They saw with their eyes, they listened intently to a trial, and they thought they knew how this would turn out, but I think history showed them that might not be the case. So I was concerned.
So then that led to what kind of emotion when you heard the verdict?
You know, I'm still trying to process that because it's not joy because there's a tragedy all the way around here in George Floyd's life. I think it was relief to start with, and then more than anything, conviction that we can't allow this to happen again. We can't get to this place we're at. We can't just say this is the way things are. So I think the conviction to try and make changes to do all we can to prevent ending up in this situation.
You referred to it earlier as the trial shouldn't be, it should be a floor, not the ceiling.
Yeah.
We need to do more. Can you give us some specific things that you would really like the legislature to do now and act on?
Well, there's smart folks over there, and I know I've talked with a lot of them. Representative Frazier has a bill that just works at something we can all agree on. Let's make it so that you don't get killed or go to jail for traffic stops and traffic violations.
Well, no one wants that.
No.
How do you do that?
But I think what you do is you try and decriminalize some of these behaviors. When you've got a warrant, when you stop someone, is it necessary you're going to drag them in if it's for a small thing? Do you take people down to jail and hold them, with bail for traffic violations? We're not asking people to violate, but sometimes there's reasons why people do these things. Get some off ramps. And then I think recognizing that every situation doesn't warrant a police officer to be there. We need to start thinking about how do you bring in mental health folks? How do you try and get it on the front end? So there's things, and then I think what people are asking for is let's just have accountability. Can the post board changes, the standards and training, can we do some of those things? I think the biggest fear, and I think the sigh or whatever you heard from folks is they don't believe anybody's ever held accountable for making a mistake or doing something wrong that they should have. And so I think those are starts, but I would say this is our time now. Let's listen to the community. When I listen to young black men say we're terrified to be pulled over, let's back up from there and figure out why that is.
Will the accountability ever flip to go, hey, I'm being stopped, I need to comply? If I'm fleeing, if I'm putting other people at risk, I'm not being accountable.
No, that's right. I think we saw this unfortunately in a pretty horrific situation just earlier this week where someone was carjacking with that. I'm not talking about that, but I even think think of what was on Dante Wright's mind. I can't say where he was at, but every young black man knows if they saw George Floyd, well, what does complying mean? That might mean I get a knee on my neck. It might get those. And I think this idea of the sense of fear that goes into people, because I hear people say, all this would be fixed if you just listened to what the police told you. There's more to it than that. And there's a cultural change that has to happen so that we know they're not fearful. And the police, and again, imagine for them thinking about this, what do we do to reduce this tension? And I'll be the first to tell you that if you approach a situation, you can add to that tension. There was some of the concerns, well, you've got a lot of police on the street. Doesn't that raise the tensions? Yes, it does raise the tensions. And the thinking there is to try and make sure that we didn't lose control of the streets where people could express their rights. But I do think that there's got to be something that really says, and I think of this too, if you're a middle-aged white man and you get pulled over, you're just thinking, oh, dang, was I speeding? You don't think about reaching for your wallet. You don't think about those things. Black Minnesotans do. And so there's work to be done there.
You had such a great campaign slogan, and One Minnesota, and I think it resonated for a while. And not that it still doesn't. But if you were to divide Minnesota now, what would your message be to white Minnesota, the Minnesota that really benefits from a lot of the great things our state has?
Yeah, my message, I believe now, and I felt this coming, I felt it politically, I felt it geographically, I felt it racially like this. I ran on that because I was fearful that we'd get to this situation. And One Minnesota doesn't mean we all agree and do things the same way. It means we reach across those lines of difference to believe there's plenty of room for all of us. So I'm more committed. I'll be the first to tell you what you've seen this week and what you saw with George Floyd. There's two Minnesotans. There's clearly two Minnesotas. And I would argue that we all are going to do better, because what you're seeing is if we continue to leave people behind and we continue to have systemic barriers for people reaching what many of us who are white are able to reach, none of us will find peace. So my message to them is that idea of one Minnesota and all of us in it together is still there. And I have to say, I think people are feeling a little bit that tonight of how it can be if we kind of come together, that sense of relief, we've got work to do. I hope they take this with a sense of commitment. Well, let's try and get there.
Did downtown feel different to you tonight?
Feels different. Feels different. I see it. And again, I don't ever want to get back in that place again. I don't ever want Minnesotan staff to get there. But as I was saying earlier, that sense of tension and that sense of fear, that's how black mothers feel when their kids drive to soccer practice. And I think if that helps white Minnesotans to understand what they're trying to get out from under, we want to feel that sense that we all matter, we're valued, you've got an opportunity. Tonight feels a little bit like that. We can do great things. We've done it. This state does do great things, and I will not shy away from, we lead in so many areas. Let's just bring all our folks along.
Governor Tim Walz, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Frank.
You bet.